Good morning, everybody. Tex Homer here, Eric Nalleen, Coach Dub, Roaster. Good morning. So
Yeah,
we're on a Roaster's he's always in the action, man. We should give him the 4th spot. He can host with us.
absolutely.
Yeah, let's do it. So weird week, right? Because we've had a weird schedule. So we're not in our usual flow of it. So we're just really going to talk any team news. The team landed in Atlanta yesterday, I believe. They're doing a lot of media availability this morning. Our Joe Cook is on scene. He's gotten some good quotes there, some interesting quotes I think we can talk about. And then we had some young guys that joined the team early, which is interesting. We'll chat about that. And then, of course, any questions you guys have, that kind of stuff, we'll hit it. Even 2026 recruiting. Good morning, Richard. All right, let's start straight up with the new guys on campus. Justice Terry, Michael Terry, and then who else?
Lance Jackson.
Yeah,
Terry Jackson, and Cole Brevard, defensive tackle from Purdue, and linebacker Brad Spence from Arkansas. So they're already on campus. Sark was mentioning this morning how they're kind of helping bridge the gap from losing portal guys in practice. They're addressing practice depth. Obviously, these guys can't play, but anytime they can get, like Sark used the term climatized, it's going to speed up the process for them. I'm not surprised at all that Lance Jackson was one of the 5. He had such a no-nonsense recruitment. This is kind of not, I'd be more surprised, if he had this opportunity and passed it up. But it's awesome to see Justice Terry already, mixing it up. That was a recruitment that they won at the very last second, that they kind of entered really in a credible fashion pretty late. You wonder if the guy, how bought in he was to, being a Texas Longhorn, or was it just sort of a modern recruiting win? This is a pretty good sign that he's excited to be at Texas.
Yeah. Coach, what do you think about the young guys getting those early exposure, especially getting to see what it feels like to be in the playoffs, right? Like that's super valuable.
No, I think it's a good experience. Like I'm sure their heads are spinning because it's fast-paced practice, definitely different from high school. But I love it, man. It just gives them an opportunity to kind of see what it's going to be like. Like it's going to be like that in the spring. It's going to be like that in fall, right? So get acclimated very quickly. When the intensity is super high, you know what the coaches are like. Like, I know they recruited you one way, but now you're on campus. You see how they coach and how they move and how they navigate. And so I think it really, really helps those guys get on board kind of quick. But I love it, man. Anytime you can get kids acclimated quicker to the college game, the better.
Well, they're not jumping in, right? They're not coming at install where it's like a slow ramping. They're getting to see the truth, and that's it'll be different than their classmates because they're not getting brought along kind of slowly. I think in the thing from Joe too, they have to acclimatize, like you said, but also the younger guys have to do their weight room training to make sure that I guess their forms are correct and all that kind of stuff too. So they're doing that basic intro stuff, but they're getting to see how the sausage is made early.
Yeah.
Question. Does Jordan Washington follow Helm and JT Sanders? 0 catches as a freshman, then turn into an NFL guy.
Yep. Yeah, that's going to happen. I think he's got the highest upside out of the 3 people mentioned in that clip. Just because I think he's got the ability to become the best blocker out of that 3. And then he's not going to take a backseat as a receiver either. So it's one of those positions you can forget about him for a year or so, just because the developmental curve is, it's tough. You got a lot of different moving parts. You got to learn the run game. You got to learn the passing game. You got to learn to diagnose what secondary is trying to do to you. It requires physical maturity, mental maturity, athleticism. So it's a tough position to learn early on. And so that this ability for Jordan Washington to get a year under his belt where, wasn't a lot of pressure. Now the pressure is going to be on, especially if they don't get another tight end if they don't get a tight end in the portal. They missed on the kid from Purdue that went to Ohio State. But I think it's going to be a big year for him. I'm not too concerned about him. He could have played more this year. They just, it's just kind of the Gunnar Helm and Juan Davis show. But it's going to come down to physical maturity and blocking, and then it's going to come down to being on the same page with the quarterback. But I expect very big things for Jordan Washington. Now, the spring ball is going to give us an idea of how soon.
Yeah, that's the big thing, blocking, right?
Yeah.
What's his height right now?
He just came in at 6'4".
Okay.
Yeah, you got Nick Townsend coming in. Nick, I saw Nick earlier in December, right after he signed. And he had lost some weight. The season took some weight off, so he's going to have to build it back up. He was down to about 225, my guess of it. When I'd seen him in August, he was probably 235, and he just looked a little bit different. So Nick, very high expectations on Nick. He's not going to be an early enrollee, but he's a guy that, you know, if any freshman tight end could play early for Sark, I think it would probably be Nick.
2 Nyblack questions. Do we think Nyblack returns next season? And Quentin's statement, we still got Nyblack.
Yeah, I think I don't want to step on Charlie's toes if he was about to talk, but Nyblack I think already would have gone in the portal had he was if he was gonna leave, because he hasn't had a huge, you know, part this season so far. Even down the stretch, he's played a couple, and he's had some drops. It just hasn't been probably the year that he was hoping for. The talent is still there. But I think he would have gone in already. I haven't heard definitively that he will be back, but I do expect him to be back. It would have made more sense for him to already go in the portal if he was going to leave.
Yeah, I was just about to say the exact same thing. Right, portal's getting ready to close, so if he was going to jump in, you would have heard his name by now.
We still have 5 days after the last game for Texas, but the market is so much smaller for him though. Than it would be. People are going to be filling up on tight ends, and I think he would have already gone in, but I haven't heard definitively that he will be back. It just makes the most sense. If a guy wants to block, he'll be that 12 personnel tight end starter.
Yeah, Nyblack needs to put on some weight. Yeah, some weight and blocking want to, right?
Yeah, blocking want to.
If we can get rid of that kind of just big wide receiver mentality. And
the next guy they get from Alabama that wants to block will be the first. I don't know how Nick Saban was getting it done.
Weird, right? You would think that they would have it. Morning, Drew. Good morning, Hunter.
What is this? What's Gaddis talking about? Blue gone. He thinks Blue's going to the NFL based off that one game.
Let me see. Or Blue's gone. I don't see any freshman running back stepping up like Gibson this year, though.
I'm not sure we can even say Gibson stepped up. He showed flashes. Freshman running back. We've seen freshman running back make much bigger impact than Gibson. Now he's got the tools, but I wouldn't say that he stepped up. John Simon, I think, could play early if they need him. He's a more physically mature guy than you'd expect. Coach's son, understands the sport pretty well. Got a good inside-outside running game and pretty good hands too. So I think Simon could play early. I don't know if they'll need him. I'm not ruling out portal for them to take a running back. I don't know. I think if anything, Blue's recent game increased his chances of returning to Texas.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like Simon a lot too. I think he's very versatile. I think like you said, mentally he'll be prepared to come in and kind of play. I think he'll pick it up kind of quick with his dad being a former college coach.
Dad's current college coach at Grambling, right?
I didn't know if he was at Grambling still anymore, so I didn't know if it changed or not.
Oh yeah, right. They got a coaching change. So I'm not sure what his status is, but yeah, he's grown up around the sport. And when I stood next to him in Nashville, he was bigger than I was expecting. He was a legit. I would say, I didn't look at that closely, but I would think he was 600 or 6 foot, 200 pounds, solid 200 pounds, not 600. That would be a Kyle Flood offensive lineman. But yeah, I think that kid could play if needed. I'm just, I'm not sure that they're going to need it. And I'm not sure what Blue's going to do, but that game he had the other day, I think, man, there was a lot of people in the locker room that were happy for him. I think the vibe around him is, it's shot straight up after that game.
Well, because he's got that ability. I think that's why people got frustrated, because they believe in Blue. He does cool stuff. Right. He's got some sick hands when he wants to catch it, and he can hit home runs. And so that was kind of
he had high expectations, coming into the season, because we'd seen that ability that he showed against Clemson the year prior. Yeah, Drew M said his speed is unmatched. Yeah, he's as fast as a running back as I've seen outside of Jamal and Chris Johnson, probably. And we wrote an article the other day where I encourage you guys to go watch the video. It had Torrey Becton on with Lawyers and Longhorns, or Longhorns and Lawyers. Arnold and Itkin, two of the most important people behind the scenes in Texas football. You guys should go watch it and support those guys. They had on Torrey Becton, and they kind of laid a trap they wanted Becton to name the fastest player on the team, which of course comes with severe political consequences. That's a hotly contested debate.
And I love players. They care so much about who is the best.
I know it. Who was it last year? It used to be Xavier Worthy. Used to always be arguing with somebody. It might have been Jaden Blue.
Yeah. Even Whittington would say he's faster.
Yeah, Whittington was up over 22 miles per hour. But I think he mentioned I'm trying to remember. I just watched it. I think he might have mentioned Jaden Blue first. He mentioned Jaden Blue, Silas Bolden, and Isaiah Bond. And then the first of the fourth, he didn't, and he said it wasn't the anchor, because you can do the math and say if you're the anchor, you're the fastest guy in the program. So he switched that up. And then he mentioned DeAndre Moore, Matthew Golden, and he said about 6 guys could vie for that 4th spot. So Jaden Blue might be the fastest guy on the team, and this team does not lack for speed.
Yeah. What about getting Baxter back, man? We know his mental eval's there, right? That article was awesome. He just seemed Baxter's always just seemed like a good kid, or a good young man. So how's he progressing coming back from injury? And also, how does that kind of change everything? You said we could take a portal running back. You think we're trying to get a frontline starter in portal potentially, or would it be just to shore up the room? Kind of, what do you think about running back for next year if we get guys back healthy?
Well, I'm getting kind of mixed signals on the running back at portal. I still think they'll take one just because, they don't like to leave anything to chance. And I don't think they're going to know truly how healthy Baxter is until after spring. And so that comes with risk because you can't add people. You can't really add people after the spring. So that spring portal window is going to tell us a lot. There's a number of guys that, their injuries, we're not going to know what to expect. Christian Clark, Derek Williams, I think they'll probably have a decent idea on him. His injury wasn't nearly as bad. But I think they will go. Obviously, Baxter's going to do everything he can. The kid is designed for success mentally, and on top of the athletic gifts, the physical gifts. He's a bigger kid. He was really coming on too. It was really unfortunate. Yeah. Sark was really hyped up with the spring game he had where he was dropping his pads on people. But if I expect him to come back, it's just sometimes it takes a while for a running back to round into form. Maybe he's not truly back until November. That's not really something Sark likes to leave to chance, especially in the portal era where there's not really an excuse for it.
Yeah. Quick question, and it'll be hard to answer on the top of your head, but what is something UT does with on-campus visits that others don't do?
Pull out Lambos.
I was about to say. But every recruit or parent you talk to, they say Texas is just first class all the way around the board. The way they handle you for building relationships, it feels natural. It doesn't feel like you're forced, like they're being sold anything, right? I mean, of course, you got the fancy stuff with Lambos outside, but once you get inside the building, like it's true relationships, it's just true conversation, and you can feel the love. It's 5-star service. So that's one thing I get. And we have recruits say, hey, they can tell they're being sold when they go other places, right? They're just trying to sell them on dreams. But Texas is just real. You got a lot of real people inside the building, so the culture is kind of different.
Well, that's how you know you're elite at sales too. If they don't feel like they're being sold, you create a good system. That's like a well-run organization there, man.
Yeah, well, it's confidence in their product. You don't have to really push too hard when you feel like you have an exceptional product. They've taken some external flack on the Lamborghinis and stuff. Look, they say they've got a quick window to make an impression. That's an attention-getting device. Here's the style of the program. Now come in this building. We'll teach you about the substance. That stuff gets overblown. I think there's some envy involved from other schools that they're rolling out F-150s or Dodge Chargers. I don't know.
Say Hellcats.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm trying to think of what else they do that's different. It's kind of like, it's a tough thing to innovate because once one school does it, if it's popular, every school is doing it the very next weekend.
Yeah, it's crazy how copycat it is.
But yeah, I think just being genuine and confidence in their product. They're not going to push hard, which a lot of recruiting fans. We wrote an article the other day about kind of what to expect in this next cycle. Recruiting Texas fans get quite impatient when there's a bit of a lull in action on recruiting. That's because they're not pushing hard. They're still figuring out who they truly want. The mental eval takes a little bit of time to truly learn and get a good grasp of. The more time you have to recruit a guy, the more you get to know them. And I think that's why they're not selling super hard in January, February, and really even the spring.
We thought the world was over in July, and you end up with the number 1 class in the country.
No, we did not. Don't
not us. I'm talking about the fans.
Oh yeah. I mean, it started June 28th when both Sharma and Charles committed elsewhere.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right. I told my wife, summer vacation's over. We're gonna have to go play board therapist for a while.
Yep.
But yeah, I think more and more people are clearly catching on to it. You could see like when some people still worry about D-tackle recruiting, a lot of the responses are laughter. It's just going to work out. We just don't always know how it's going to work out, but you can always rest assured that Sark has a plan.
But also every year we've complained about a position, the next year they get it done. Because remember, everyone was mad at Chode at linebacker, and then we get the linebacker. So it's like the coaches know what they're doing and they answer the question. It's not what are the odds? The coaches are like, we forgot D-tackle.
Yeah, there's always context to apply to. It's important that's kind of, I think, one of the values of IT is, we really apply the context. That Chode's first year was a really, really bad in-state linebacker class.
Yeah.
And he was coming from Montana State or whatever. It's not like he was coming from even if he'd come from Tulane, it would have been better because, he would have had New Orleans scouted or Louisiana scouted. So coming from Minnesota, and it was who they took the kid out of Arlington, Martin. I'm drawing a blank on his name. Who's good kid.
Travell Johnson, yeah.
Yeah, and that was it. But then look what the state had to produce the next cycle. You got a monster in Anthony Hill, and all of a sudden they're recruiting better. It goes back to 2017, the DB recruiting when everybody was down on Nivar and Jason Washington. I said, watch what they do in 2018. They're going to actually wreck shop. And because the cycle just set up entirely different with Houston being loaded, those guys coming from Houston and having prior relationships.
Right.
So a lot of times context is important. Context will inform you what's going to happen, not only what has happened.
Year one with Jackson at wide receiver, everybody was upset, and then you get it. So it's just this.
You still got Ryan Ringo.
I know, but I'm saying these coaches figure it out. They've yet to let us down in that regard, and we're on year 4. So I think the track record is solid there.
Absolutely. They've earned everyone's trust.
Yeah, absolutely. Before we keep going, guys, Andre the Lawyer.
This video is brought to you by Andre the Lawyer. If you're injured, trust the team that secured millions for their clients and helped thousands of Texans with their injury case. Car wrecks, slip and falls, 18-wheeler accidents, on-the-job injuries, and wrongful deaths. Don't let insurance tell you what your claim is worth. Hire Andre the Lawyer to fight for you. Principal office is in Dallas, but they serve Texans throughout the state. So don't wait and call Andre the Lawyer today at 214-444-8808. That's 214-444-8808. The contact information is in the description.
Always appreciate you. Comment in advance. Key to victory, Texas O-line protecting Quinn, O-line run blocking, contain ASU quarterback Sam Levitt. He says, I'm not trying to hear about this personnel and recruiting. I'm here to talk X's and O's.
Well, I mean, you can't disagree with that. Give me Texas D-line against their offensive line, blowing up their gap schemes and getting the Scatabo before he can start letting the physics do its job. You got to hit him before he gets rumbling, and you got to gang tackle him. If he's off balance, there better be somebody else to come in and tidy it up because he'll regain his balance and break off another 30 yards.
Yeah, he does some really cool stuff, man, where you're like, I don't know how he stayed up, bounce sideways, land on one leg, do 3 backflips, and then keep going.
You got some Toby Gerhart going. I don't know what that is, but I see he contained the ASU's quarterback, man. I think he came out and spoke a little bit. I think
I love it, man.
Up for that one.
Yeah,
he's
a good run. He kind of runs to me like at an arch level, so he's a pretty good runner. But I think his big mistake is not looking at not understanding the importance of he's on an inferior team. He doesn't have the pieces around him that right. Quinn has. So even if he plays well, it might not look like it because they could still get wrecked. And he played a pretty decent game.
Yeah, I have watched Quinn. I'm going to show him I'm a better quarterback. People get mad at that, man. But we also, on the flip side, we get mad at these boring interviews where he's like, yeah, I love Quinn. Yeah. I'm not looking to compete. It's like, man, sell the fight. Do some WWE. I love it when they talk, man. It makes it – now there's more stakes. Now it's more interesting.
Yeah, it is.
Eric, something catching your eye over there?
Well, I'm just reading and starring a couple of these that we can talk about. Vance, man, bring us some more insight, buddy. Appreciate it.
Yeah. All right, let's see. Benda or LaFau better suited to match up 1v1 versus Scattigo? I'd go Benda.
I'm probably
if you're beating somebody in the A gap, I always choose Benda.
Yeah,
I know.
Playing downhill, Benda, sure. Laterally, it's probably a wash, but
yeah.
I think Benda's diagnosis has probably been better than LaFau's. LaFau had a rough stretch there after his first start. Overran a whole lot of plays. Benda's playing more under control and diagnosing faster. You expect that. I think Benda's in his 6th year, right?
Right? Yeah, you would expect that.
Yeah, this could be a big game for Benda. We'll see how it plays out. But LaFau, I think, has been playing the run better. It's not, you just got to play your assignment. That's the thing, because you don't know where Scatabo is going to pop out. He'll go backside on it. It's not going to go play side. So just be where you're supposed to be, and I think both guys will be fine.
Yeah, you have to be gap disciplined because he'll find that open gap on the backside if you let him. And their counter run game is a lot of fun. He's just a good player, man. There's really no way around it.
You gotta give him some credit, man. He says he feels like he's the best running back in college football. Like Anthony Hill said, he has the right to believe so. But yeah,
he's awesome.
Yeah, Anthony Hill handled that. Anthony cracks me up because he's clearly there's a battle in his soul because he's such a nice kid on the mic. But on the field he's not saying like, "Hey, good job, buddy," because they're always getting up in each other's faces. So he's got to be a menace on the field.
It seems like a lot of times when he's talking to the media, he means exactly the opposite of what he's saying because he's got that wry smile on his face.
Yeah.
Good game, buddy. Really means I'm kicking your ass, aren't I?
Yeah. He's a good politician because when you hear him talk, he just seems like a very nice, sweet kid. But on the field, you're seeing him and players go at it.
The voice doesn't match his neck. You know what I mean? It's like
I enjoy it. Colin Coward, hey, elite football analysis every time from old Coward, said that Notre Dame will get a big name transfer quarterback who is currently playing in the playoffs. Didn't Freeman just do an interview saying they weren't going to do that?
Well, on 3, I saw on 3, and I didn't read the article, but I think Chad Simmons and Steve Wiltfong said that Notre Dame's not taking quarterback. Of course, Notre Dame has. They've made overtures. How would I know that? Maybe put some pieces together. But I don't. If everybody's saying they're not going to take one, I don't think they'll take one. But they've definitely expressed some interest.
Ooh. All right. Gaddis, Benda, LaFau, McDonald, Blackwell. Who has the skill and physicality to take down Scatterbo in space? In space is where it becomes more interesting.
I think LaFau can. I think McDonald can for sure. He brings some power to his punch, but he's athletic enough. I think Blackwell too. But man, I don't know, man. Look, this ain't about one-on-one in space, man. We're gonna have to gang tackle.
We don't want to let him one-on-one in space. That's the point.
Yeah,
anybody's capable of making that play, and anybody's capable of missing that play. How's your leverage? Are you playing under control? Are you trying to hit him as hard as he's trying to hit you? You might lose yourself when you do that. Get hats to the ball. Texas has tackled well almost the entire year. I think they had one bad game that I can really. Mississippi State, they had trouble tackling. A couple individual guys had some issues, here and there. Taft missed a guy or two last game, but for the most part, team tackling and pursuit has been a strength of the defense, and I don't think that with that being the priority this week, I don't know why that would drop off, even as good as he is. But like I said, try to get him before he breaks the line of scrimmage.
That's the key.
And he can make you miss in the backfield. He's a fun player, man.
He's got great feet, great exceptional balance. He's got like the body dexterity of a discus thrower that just gets extremely low and powerful. He's a handful. But Texas has a D line to really make this game go in its favor. And then losing Jordan Tyson, I think not enough people are talking about that. Where that was their pressure relief valve on the run game, and they don't have that anymore. So they've got some. They're at a disadvantage at Texas with the wide receiver out. That wide receiver in the game, I think their chances would have been much improved. That line would probably be a lot lower.
Yeah, they could punish you with that wide receiver once you start being obsessed with Scatterbo. But now that he's gone, and ASU said, "Look, we got other receivers." I'm aware of that, but you don't have a number one like that.
No, if they had other talented guys, he wouldn't have had such a monopoly on the targets. They were targeting him, 9 times a game, I think, over the last second half of the season.
Well, and he helps quarterbacks too, man, because you don't have to throw it super accurate. Like he'll come down with the ball, and like that's a kind of wide receiver you want. So that'll be tricky. But also, it always come back to this, man. We had Bijan and went 8-4. Like running backs are excellent sprinkles on top. Yeah. If you got everything else and now you got a good running back, damn. But running backs in this day and age aren't generally going to be able to win you games single-handedly. Famous last words. All right, AR. Eric, a while ago you said Sark's greatest talent wasn't play calling, but being a team builder. Juxtaposing Texas to OU, you couldn't be more right.
Yeah, roster management is part of it. This goes back to 2022 when they went 8-5, and I said, Sark is putting together a really damn good team. You just can't see it because the offense isn't really doing its part. The defense was pretty good in 2022, but you could see the pieces being put together, the program building from the year prior when they were 5-7. Really they could have gone 10-2 in 2022 if a couple of things broke their way. But really, I think that's his greatest strength is the CEO side of it, which I didn't really have that great of a grasp for him when he got to Texas. Everybody knew about him as the play calling magician, quarterback whisperer, all these things. He's putting high. Would they have like three of the top 5 Heisman guys in 2020? Mac Jones, the running back, and obviously got one at the receiver.
Smith and Harris.
Yeah, that's what everybody was focused on. And then he gets to Texas, and you immediately start seeing that he's prioritizing the right positions. You know, taking 7 offensive linemen in 2022 showed that he really understood it. Carrying less wide receivers than typical because he knows that the priority should be on bigger players. Bigger players are harder to find, and you have to have a assembly line of those. So,
letting defense get recruits. Like that kind of stuff matters when you're an offensive guy. Letting your defense shine is important too.
Yeah, and that was another part of the program was his focus on culture. That's what really separated him from a guy like I always like to pick on is Lincoln Riley. You know, you could see that Sark really has an emphasis on toughness because at his core he wants to run the ball. Everybody gets caught up on him wanting to throw the ball. He wants to run the ball, and you can't do that with a soft team. Right. And you know, I think the guy's been so much fun to cover just because you could see it coming together, not in the way that I expected when he first got hired.
Yeah, I don't know how you could have seen it either because at Washington he didn't have the elite pick. He didn't have enough control at USC really. So to really, I mean, his GM ability.
Well,
I don't know.
When he was at UW, that's where he first caught my mind. My dad lived close enough to UW where you know, people would walk by his house going to the games. And so I kind of grew up a UW fan, and they went winless the year before he got there, and then I think they won 6 his first year. He was on the way to building a monster there. You know, look how he left it for Chris Peterson and PK, and you know, Choate was there too. Yeah. He was building a monster. He said he got a little greedy, wanted to go to USC, higher profile school. You know, and you can see how a younger guy is gonna make that maybe mistake. But yeah, I'd seen him. You know, kind of do a program build before.
I just didn't see him with top end 5-star guys. Like,
yeah, and now at a place like Texas with the resources it has in the NIL era, and it's really come together. And that's why I've been very confident he'll win a national championship or 2 at Texas. Now, you know, there's still game day things you got to overcome. You know, no coach is infallible. Nick Saban made one of the biggest mistakes of all time in that crazy return against Auburn. You know, I mean, it's coaches make mistakes, and it requires a bit of luck to get over the hump and win a natty. Right. But I've felt since probably the offseason going into 2022 when I started hearing how the team was coming together behind Bijan and Rashawn Johnson's leadership, I felt like Sark was building a monster even after going 5-7.
His ability to retain staff too has been crazy. And also I mean, people move around so much. You can just tell that people like working for Sark. You know, people aren't constantly jumping ship, you know, like we didn't lose our DC to West Virginia or anything like that. Could this be a Ty Anthony Smith game? My guess is probably no. You want to play your frontline guys in the playoffs.
We are a year away from Ty Anthony Smith games. But there will be Ty Anthony Smith games in the program's future, no doubt about it. But yeah, he's still a little on the light side and still learning. Linebacker is a difficult position to play early on. But he's ahead of the curve. He is definitely ahead of the curve. That kid can diagnose, which that's step one. And a lot of linebackers never get past step one. They look the part, but they struggle to either play in space or to diagnose. He has neither of those questions about him. He just needs to add a little weight, get a little more experience.
Vance, the DNs must play physical to contain the run game, counter or outside zone.
Absolutely. Yeah. And Barris Terrell, I mean that
no problem.
If he's physical is like the first thing that comes to mind with Barron being a grown man. Colin too, and Trey Moore plays the run fundamentally sound. So you got to feel good about that.
You know, we talked about Ethan Burke in the offseason, right? How fundamentally sound he is as well. Like that's why he's probably looked at by a lot of NFL teams. Like he does his job just like Barron Sorrell every time he's in. If he got a wrong shoulder a guy, he's going to wrong shoulder a guy on the counter. So that's one thing I'm not really worried about with the front four. Alignment assignment is just off the charts. They played their assignment in key every single time.
PK, PK took on a lot of waters first year when he didn't have any edges to work with, especially after the JUCO. Man, I'm bad with names right now. The JUCO guy got hurt, and they didn't have a Jack.
Why am I blanking on that too?
They had to play Jet Bush there, remember? And everyone was like, "Oh, I thought this guy knew how to coach edges." And then, you know, we saw Ovi Agufu struggle really hard his first year playing the run, and then the next year, Agufu couldn't get to the quarterback at all. I think he had 1.5 sacks, but he played the run so much better. And you're like, there's the development that he's known for. And now he's got the NFL pieces on top of, his ability to develop the position, and we're seeing the fruits of that labor.
Man,
makes a bit of a difference, doesn't it? To have
big difference.
Whenever PK did that press conference and he was, they're like, "What about the pass rush?" And he was like, "What pass rush?" That was great. That lets you know that he's like, "Yeah, that was awful." It's better than the coordinator being like, "Oh, well, we technically got pressure." It's like,
they know what he definitely knows what good looks like. And, that was one of the first things we wrote about when they hired him. I was ecstatic when they got PK. Again, I've got a little bit more familiarity with UW just because my dad living up there for so long. And his development was amazing. So you think about, hey, this is what he's done with all these 3-stars. Now, what's he going to do when he has access to guys like Colin Simmons? And it was funny, LSU was, that recruitment for Colin got really hairy there the last, I would say, 4 or 5 days. And one of the things that they were doing was they were telling him that PK wasn't developing any frontline talent. And so Texas went back to him with a presentation on all these guys, which I think that was a mistake by LSU because you really opened up a can of worms for Texas to really – they had already told them, but to really put together a presentation of like, hey, look, this is all the guys that I've developed, and this is where they were ranked. Here's where you're ranked. Guess what I'm going to do with you. Freshman All-American, freshman of the year, 8 sacks already. Just an exceptional year. So he's getting this elite talent. And it's only up from here too. You got Lance Jackson's already on campus. I mean, good Lord.
Dude, we're going to be scary at edge.
That's what I'm talking about.
Lance is already NFL size. And so it's just, man, this is going to be a lot of fun. It'll take numbers to tackle this back. If there's a lot of one-on-one tackling, we could lose this game.
Here's my guy right here. Coach is exact. I mean, lose a game. Yeah. If they have a poor fundamental defensive game, they're going to be in some trouble, but I just don't think they have the passing attack to pair with it. Like they did before. I'd be a little more worried. Here's the guy's name. I couldn't remember. Whoop. That's not it. Jacoby Jones.
Jacoby.
Yeah. Jacoby.
Yeah. Jacoby was a solid player, and they didn't have any jacks. He was the only real jack they had, and he got hurt, of course.
PFF guy says we are one of the worst tackling teams in the country. Maybe, dude, but we always have like 15 guys by the ball. We even have some people on the sidelines that are willing to tackle. So you can miss a couple because we got.
Man, that doesn't really square with what I've seen.
And I normally like PFF's grades, but on that one, I don't know about that.
So where's the bad tackling coming from? Because they've got 3 DBs that are rated over 90.
Right.
Which is I think most teams don't even have a player at 90. They got 3 of the
Our linebackers are the leading tacklers, so it's like, I don't know where that's coming from. I would have to question that grade. And normally,
one thing I think about with that reminds me of, I'm not saying the 2000 game in Colorado is going to happen again, but Chris Brown, that's all they had. And for some reason, we couldn't tackle that guy. He went like on a run, and he was like running through every single person. It's like, oh, man, that's the only thing in the back of my mind thinking about, can we rally to this guy and tackle and stop him? Because that's the only offense they have.
Yeah, and that would make it even more frustrating if that was the case, because they're going to be predictable in how they try to win the game.
Absolutely. Before we keep going, guys, for all your real estate needs, you should choose Laura Baker.
Hi, I want to tell you about Laura Baker. If you're looking for a new home in the 512 or even at this point, let's face it, 737 area code, there's only one number to call. That's Laura Baker at 512-784-0505. As a member of the elite Andy Allen team with Keller Williams, Laura has helped Longhorns find the home of their dreams in Central Texas. Just ask our resident sex symbol, Ian Boyd, who moved all the way from Michigan to Texas with Laura's help. Laura can help you find what you're looking for in the 512, the 737, or even parts of the 254 and the 210. Just, give her a call at 512-784-0505. Her email is in the description, as well as the rest of her contact details. She's a friend. Give her a call.
I like this comment. This game reminds me of Texas versus Oklahoma State last year. Great running back, good quarterback, undersized defense. I think with Ollie Gordon, there's some similarities there. They're both good backs. They're not the same style of back, but I can see a little bit of that. I think Arizona State is more creative on offense. I think Sam Leavitt clearly has a higher ceiling than Bowman, who hung it up, by the way. He could have kept going, but he was like, this is getting weird. So I don't know. I have a lot of respect for Arizona State. They just have a person when you're at this level of the playoffs. They just don't really have the personnel. And that's why a lot of their arguments has been leaning on like quote unquote culture and having heart and all that kind of stuff is what you kind of have to lean on when you don't got a ton of NFL guys.
Yeah, Texas has a huge baseline talent advantage, where Arizona State's third or fourth best player would be Texas's 12th or something. Once you get past the quarterback and the running back, it's all Texas, So there's just a big advantage. This is how good teams win. They have more depth and more talent.
Exactly.
Why are people bringing up Harold Perkins? Man, I thought I was past that name. Man.
You're never. He's coming back.
Yeah.
Burke's always in great position. That's why he blows up so many plays. Yeah, Ethan shows up for a play or two in the game, but it's like, why aren't you on the field more? I want to see Ethan go to that next level. He also looks insane. He looks like a jaguar. Like whenever he's lined up and spread fully out, dude. I'm like, this guy looks like he's 8 feet tall. It's insane.
He's so long, but he does a good job of playing low.
Yeah,
he does.
Dude, look at when he's lined up. He literally looks like a jaguar, about to pounce. It's always funny.
See him in short yardage situations, especially goal, right, when you really got to play an assignment and squeeze when you need to in space. He's always making a play, man, every single time.
It's going to be important for this game.
He's still got that dad bod thing going too.
Yeah. Well, there's 2 ways you can put on weight. You can do the eat a ton of good calories, or you can hit Taco Bell every night. And, it'll change up.
He's keeping his weight up.
David Keith Williams. UT is ranked 11th nationally in rushing defense, but ironically, Arizona State is ranked 27th. It still wouldn't surprise me if Trey Wisner and Jaden Blue rush for 100-plus yards against Arizona State.
I bet one of them does. Yeah, I bet one of them does. With Jaden Blue, that could might only require 4 carries.
Exactly.
If he's hitting it like the other day, but Texas has got a advantage on the lines, both lines, offensive line against their D line and D line against their offensive line. And if they control that, the team that does that the most, and then of course they still have to protect the ball. Turnover margin was a big question going into the Clemson game. That's another question going into this one. Arizona State does a really good job protecting the ball.
Yep.
But Texas does a good job of taking the ball away.
Yeah, they do.
So, we remember going into the Vanderbilt game, everybody talked about Pavia I think he'd only thrown 1 interception at that point, and they got him twice. And right now, Levitt's on a really good streak, 1 interception in, I think, his last 6 games or something like that. So he might be time
to barely throwing. It's like he's not throwing a lot. It's like it's Cam, 90% Cam, and then he hits a shot.
Yeah, it's play action, yeah.
Yeah, if we can get Sam throwing, hopefully that's not famous last words, but the reason why they're winning down the stretch so dominant, they've looked good, is not because of Sam. Sam's been picking his spots. Sam's also one of those brutal quarterback runners that he will not run at all in the second half till he QB draws it in the 4th with a much needed first down. It's when he runs, he doesn't do dumb scrambling. Levitt is really effective runner when he chooses to run. But it's been Cam that's why this offense has been dominant down the stretch. It hasn't been Sam. So I do want to see what happens if Sam does have to throw a lot and they're behind the sticks. He might do great, but I'm just saying I haven't seen it recently.
Another thing I was going to add to that, their secondary leading tackles. So it means people get to the second level quite often running the ball.
All their safeties are their leading.
All their safeties are leading tackles in the nickelback. So kind of wonders what that front 4 or front 7 really looks like.
That Nickel's a great player, and he's out for the first half for that targeting on Rocco Beck. So but if you watch them, if you watched Ohio State versus them, dude, they were demolishing their defensive line, just moving them at will. And so we need to see if we can do that.
I think we will.
So do I. Their run scheme is designed to get scat 1-versus-1 on a backer or a DB. It will happen. Yeah, they run a ton of counter too. So they're absolutely trying to do that, Gaddis. You are correct. Can we beat our blocks and not give them those one-on-one matchups? Because Cam can absolutely beat anybody one-on-one. Hoping Blue and Wisner both get 100-plus rushing yards. Yeah, because that unlocks everything, right?
That last game really spoiled everybody. That wasn't common. That's not a common occurrence. Hey, I hope they do that. I hope they do that every game.
Yeah, it'd be great. But also we see too, right? That running game gets going, and Quinn can get going. It's the whole thing becomes unlocked when the running's moving.
Yeah, Quinn's on easy mode when they're running the ball.
Yeah. Talent of the top 4 CFP, the only position I see we improve is maybe quarterback, running back, center, guard. Though I love all our players, and if we delete turnovers, where do you think the top 4 CFP have more talent?
I would say Texas is probably is as talented as any team left.
I think he's talking about specific spots.
Well,
I don't know. I'd have to really think about that because there's a bunch of other teams.
Dylan Gabriel's the most dangerous quarterback in the playoffs, I think.
Ohio State's got the number 1 receiver.
They've got the Ohio State's probably got the best running back too.
Yeah.
Well, outside of Scatterbo, but I mean, if we're talking, teams that have a chance to actually win it. Texas won't lose due to lack of talent. If Texas loses, it'll be execution, shot themselves in the foot, or maybe if they face Georgia again and Georgia just put another defensive joke on. But
dude, if they do it 3 times, you just have to be like, all right, damn.
Yeah, delete the season.
Yeah, you're just like, ugh. There's really nothing you can do if they do it 3 times.
Texas that won't lose the playoff game due to lack of talent. It'll be execution, turnovers,
That's it.
penalties, unable to score in the red zone. Probably got other team probably got a 4th down stand or something. It'll be something very, very frustrating.
130 missed tackles. That's weird, man, because I don't feel like when I'm watching the game, I'm feeling that, But all right.
Is he looking at 2024, or is he, that could be a 2022? Yeah, I don't know. Whatever.
Because there was other years where I was like noticeably upset on missed tacklings, but I haven't felt like that at all this year.
All.
And I'm hypercritical. So like if I noticed it, I would have said something. But hey, let's see. Bad tackling ain't coming from Jade or Taff. Taff struggle versus Clemson. Those big old backs, dude. You got to beat that 6'3" back in the hole, man.
Well, that back had a 2-way go on him.
I know. What do you do?
Very, very difficult play to make. And he probably could have broken down a little bit more. He did come in like a bat out of hell. But yeah, that's a tough tackle to make.
Yep.
Everyone talks about how we have to stop the ASU run game. Who cares? They have to stop our pass and run game. Well, the reality is this matchup's incredibly easy to diagnose. Like even the layman can say, look, if Cam goes for 75 yards, Texas wins. ASU has the narrow path, right? It's so like Cam does well, freakishly well, ASU wins. Every other outcome, Texas wins.
Right.
So that's why everybody's talking about the Cam run game, because it's just so evident that's the way they win.
Yes, that's all they have. I mean, yeah.
How many former UT players on ASU's roster? I don't know, like 6 or 7.
It's 6, right?
Yeah.
Let's name them
again.
Here we go.
Somebody already named him.
Dorba, Alford,
Jake Smith,
Jamon Tapp, Jake Smith. Who else?
Alford, yeah.
I said Alford. Xavier Alford.
Troy Murray.
Troy.
How you pronounce the last name? I said it right?
Yeah, Murray. Okay. Yeah, there's your 6.
We're missing 1. But we got close. Are we looking at the transfer portal in a heavyweight, or do we feel ready to evolve with who we have waiting in the depth?
They're definitely looking at the transfer portal. There's just not a lot in there currently that strikes their fancy. So, they don't reach. They'll never reach. When they miss on a recruit in July, somebody say, who's on their big board? I'm like, well, the guy they just missed on is on their big board. That's who they want. And that's kind of how that mindset translates to the portal, where they're not going to reach. And so right now they're not seeing a ton. There's going to be we'll have a little bit more on this. What's today, the 30th? There'll be a visitor next week. We'll talk about that. They're just not going to reach, man. So they're kind of beholden to who jumps in, and if nobody jumps in, or they don't address the needs that they have, then they'll work very hard at ensuring that they can fill those needs in the spring. But they know that they need defensive tackles for sure. I mean, that's obvious. We think they like that Utah kid Tanavasa, but we haven't heard about him scheduling a visit yet.
Zach Swanson, that's who I missed.
How'd you forget? Yeah,
especially after he cut the WWE promo. We've gotten 2 good call outs from Arizona State. They're doing their part. Takario Davis. Sounds like Takario Davis is scheduling visits. No mention of Texas yet. See, Washington and Miami mentioned the corner.
Yeah, Texas. I think the interest that Texas allegedly had in Takario was overblown more than what was actually real. They were definitely paying attention to him. Nansen knows him, obviously, from coaching the year prior. Texas knows him, too, after scouting him the year prior. Yeah. And so he had a down year, especially if we're going by PFF. I don't think that, Washington's where many of his old coaches are. And then Miami, that's just, Miami doing Miami things. But I don't think anything's going to come of that. I think we already would have heard more noise. And when he first went in, the interest that we heard was more tepid than, that's a guy we really want. Again, I think they want to see who's all in the portal. And, we can also debate how big of a need cornerback is. It's certainly probably something they could kick to the spring if they need to.
I thought more interest was there last year versus this time. I don't think he had that great of a year either.
Yeah, right. And, they've got to feel pretty good about it going into next year with Muhammad, assuming that all works out. Muhammad, Kobe Black, Warren Roberson. It's going to be now or never for Warren Roberson, you would think. If the light doesn't come on this year at corner, you got to question whether or not it will. And then we've got some younger guys that were his second year in the program. Santana Wilson, Wardell Mack. I don't know. It'd be nice to have another stud out there, obviously, because you want to keep your sort of the level that they've had this year. There's going to be some drop off because they don't have a Jade in the pipeline, but I don't know if it's something that they're going to have to reach for yet.
Eric, you mentioned something too a while back about maybe Gilbo can slide outside too. Like he has some talent if he stays, he can play corner. So you got bodies.
Yeah, Gilbo. Yeah. So one of the sources said that when Barron moved to corner, I was like, is Barron going to be as good at corner? We'd mentioned for a long time that Barron moved to nickel, not because he had to, because of lack of ability, just because they wanted another corner there. And this guy said Barron's a better corner than he is nickel, and Gilbo is too. And the reason he said that is because it's, processing the box makes it a lot harder to just go out there and play. And so, they could put Gilbo there, but then they have to feel good about playing somebody at nickel. You don't want to move Jelani there, I don't think, because you like him so much at safety. Maybe Jordan Johnson-Robel. They do have Wardell Mack working there. So Gilbo playing outside is not, maybe it's not going to happen, but it wouldn't totally shock me.
Yeah, I want McDonald to be able to come downhill. So I like him at safety. Update on Wisner. Will we see Wisner or Blue more this game? Who do you think gets more reps?
I think Wisner will get more carries. I think, Blue will probably have more yards. Yeah, that'd be my guess.
Yeah, because Blue hit those home runs, man.
Exactly. 1-2 punch. I like it. I mean,
and I like it too with Gibson. If Gibson gets more consistent in the third down, I like it. Wisner kind of every down. Jaden Blue, home run hitter. Gibson, short yardage. I like the combination. When all those three are maximized, it's an interesting run game.
Yeah.
Do we expect a snap count on Isaiah Bond? Isaiah Bond has been returning from injury. I think Pete Thamel said yesterday that Bond is a go for the game.
Every time he's back and he's healthy, man, he always gets a lot of snaps. They use him in so many ways. I think he's we saw how important he is to the offense and what he can do. He can get a couple touches and he can take it to the house. So depends on how much you really need him for this game, honestly.
Well, he cancels out safeties too, right? Without the ball, he spreads the field open, and that's important.
Yeah, as long as he's really playing and not just a decoy out there. He had an abysmal game against Georgia, but he's clearly wasn't healthy. So I don't really hold that against him. Maybe that's more on the coaches. Shouldn't have been out there probably. If he's had a couple weeks. I think he's going to be on a normal pitch count. But I don't know. I'll ask about that today when I get somebody on the phone.
How big of a lead do we need for Arizona State to start abandoning the run? I don't know, 14-21.
It probably depends on what stage of the game they're at. If it's first quarter and they're down 14-0, which would mean that Texas had a really good script, they'll probably stick to it.
Yep, keep playing your game and catch us in the third quarter. That's the game plan.
Yeah, because they're going to know that Texas is the trend line for Texas is to not blow anybody out. I was sitting at I'll call it a restaurant the other day, and some Texas fans were talking football, and they were talking, why can't they put anybody away? And I said, man, trust me, that is a source of frustration for a lot of people. Why can't they put people away? They always control the game, but never put people away. So, maybe they won't have to abandon the run.
Yeah. Are any of the former UT players on ASU's roster starting? Troy O'Meara is starting now that Tyson went down, but he only had 6 reps on the season. I think he was hurt. Tap, of course, not as in the portal. Zach Swanson is a rotational defensive tackle.
Alfred is starting at safety. Yep.
Dorber rotates.
Yeah, Dorba's in there at edge. You'll see Dorba a lot. He has good get off. Dorba, he's not able to finish, but he definitely speeds up quarterbacks. And then who else did I miss here? Jake Smith is not starting.
No. Did they even play anymore?
I don't know. I didn't see him on
see
like
him out there at all.
snaps. So Walk Talk Vent. Walk Talk Vent, I appreciate you, dude. You've been here for 2 weeks on the Arizona State side. He's been fighting the good fight, standing up for the Sun Devils. He's been in an enemy territory and doing his best. So we appreciate you, Walk Talk Vent. All right. Unless Texas dominates in the trenches, ASU will keep the game close. Yeah, but Texas is planning to dominate in the trenches. That's kind of old there. We would like
to know that. Yeah. Look at every game. They say, "Oh, Texas, you got to stop the run." Michigan, stop the run. Like it doesn't matter. Like every single game, they got to stop the run. They stop the run.
Texas has won the trenches every time, except for their 2 losses against Georgia. And the second game against Georgia was much more of a stalemate than a loss.
Yeah.
The nickel blitz is a lot of fun from ASU. Like we said, their starting nickel is going to be out with a targeting foul. But what they'll do a lot is they'll take that in, Dorba, whoever. They'll send them on a real wide arc. You'll have a player in the slot. The nickel will be there. The safety will have the top. So the nickel will then arc into the B gap while the end extends. And that's how they've got a lot of their plays. And if you remember, Vanderbilt liked to do a lot of fun things with the nickel, and it really frustrated our offense. So if I'm Sark, I'm not keeping slots close to the line. I'm moving slots to the field. I'm not letting nickels hang out near Quinn. That's what I'm not doing. Because we've seen that has been frustrating, and Arizona State actually really likes to do that.
One thing they did against Vanderbilt, though, was pretty much the story of that game was they killed it on the perimeter. So that might be something they're able to do in this game. DeAndre Moore, probably a good game for him to hold on to the ball.
Yep. How is Cam Williams looking? Still a little injured, right? Whatever the nonsense percentages are. He's 86% or whatever.
Well, 86% of Cam is bigger than most.
Yeah.
I think he's a game time decision. I understand that why there's a question you're interested in, but I don't think it matters. Trevor Gooseby is playing very well.
Yeah.
And I would, if you're a game time decision, I would be inclined to have Cam ready to go. If Gooseby's, maybe the moment's catching up to him after a couple good outings for Gooseby, you have Cam ready if you need him. But I'd roll if he's a game time decision, I would roll Gooseby out there and take it from there.
I agree with that one.
Yeah, we're lucky. We're like, the potential first rounders out. We're going to be fine.
Yeah, we'll bring in the potential first rounder.
Exactly. It's a lot of fun. Yeah, Gooseby just have to come in at left and right too, man.
Mm-hmm.
People say there's not a difference. Yeah, there is. It's batting left-handed versus right-handed. There's a difference.
Yeah. Once we get off the show, I'm going to write up the quotes from Gooseby we got this morning. So go check that out at Inside Texas. It'll be a free article. You don't even have to sign up. Just go to the front page. I should have that up within the next hour. So you can tell from the quotes. I read them right before we came on the show that he's just very mature. And that's that mental maturity is the most forgotten aspect by fans, and I think it's probably the most important aspect when it comes to having expectations for these players.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Texas staff always knows something we don't. I'm sure they got targets for the next portal opening.
Well, they had targets for this portal opening that didn't go in yet either. So it's a tug of war. You can have a plan, but the other team's pulling as well.
Yeah.
They do. Yeah, typically they do have something up their sleeve. Sometimes we know about it. Sometimes we don't. But D tackles. That's one thing we do know about. They're very hard to come by in the portal. But they got 2 last window, and both those guys have been very good for Texas relative to what they needed out of them. Bill Norton in particular has played much better.
Important plays too.
Yeah, and Lole's played well pretty much all season. So they're going to have to do at least that in the next window because there's no Alfred and Vernon waiting in the wings ready to go.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm sure that'll be fun all off season to obsess about. Jelani is still only 19, but do you think he could leave after next year? Those traits are freaky, and he could have a massive breakout year.
Yeah, well, that kid was born an NFL athlete, so that's not something you question. Kind of like Jonah Williams coming in this class. That's certified, born a genetic freak, NFL athlete. Now, playing safety is a whole lot more than just being long and athletic and physical. It's going to be the mental side. So if he has a really good year next year on the mental side, very few assignment busts, you're going to start hearing about his name real early, especially being on a successful team. He's going to be already, scouts are already looking at that guy. That because you can see him run across the screen and as he's a blur, and you're like, who the hell is that guy? And then you realize his size and his physical demeanor, football disposition. His father was a linebacker. He's just got a football disposition. That's what really sold Texas on him, not just the athleticism. They just loved his mental makeup.
What
puts together a good season on the mental side of it. Few assignment busts. His name's going to be out there for second round, first round.
He shouted out all the women of the world in his was it Under Armour game. He shouted or whatever his commitment was. That's when I realized Jelani had the best confidence ever. He shouted out coaches, people that have helped him along the way, and then women in general.
Yeah, well, that's efficient. When you're a man as accomplished as him, probably he's got quite a few women out there to shout out. Just do it all at once. Model of efficiency.
Yeah, exactly. He didn't want anyone to feel left out. But as soon as he got on the mic, he cut a promo. I was like, all right, this kid, he's got it mentally. Money Muhammad clearly had his worst game against Clemson, but he still is an NFL corner. I personally think he will be the best cornerback in the SEC next season and a potential first-round draft pick.
Man, so many people got down on Manny. You give a few catches, like you're a corner. You're going to give up a few, right? It's all about confidence. I think he'll bounce back. As soon as he makes a play, everybody be back on his side, saying Manny's the greatest. He'll be the best corner in the SEC or whatever. Like, you have a Thorpe Award winner on the other side. Who are you going to throw at?
Exactly. You have two options. One won the Thorpe.
He got a few catches. Those guys are five-star guys too, a receiver over there, right? They made a few plays. It happens. I think people look at the season, the body of work, though. How many passes they'd be giving?
Remember when everybody was down on Diggs for giving up a couple touchdowns to Josh Doxson, where Josh Doxson's got big length advantage, and that's Quandre. I mean, it happens. It happens. I've never been sure that Muhammad will be a first rounder just because I don't know if he's going to test at a freak level, which typically corners do. But certainly second round, I believe that. And he will bounce back. He's a very, very mentally strong kid, very hard worker.
Yeah.
He's had a pro mindset since high school. This is not a concern at all.
Family.
I've always likened him to Byron Murphy, the Seattle Seahawk, not the Texas Longhorn, or not Seattle Seahawk. Went to UW. Was a second rounder, very similar profile to me. I think he's more of a second rounder just because I'm not sure if he'll be a freak that the NFL looks for. But zero concerns about Muhammad bouncing back from that. That'll just make him better.
Exactly. Sark, you did it, baby. We didn't think you were, but just saw Wisner's 27 yards away from 1,000 rushing season. So, I think they'll get him a few carries for that record. Sarky, you did it again, man. We thought there's no way, man. He's not playing. He wants that 1,000-yard back to continue every year.
Yeah.
Good for him.
For a guy who's going to be a special teams guy, a third string coming into the season, now look at him, man. That's testament to coaching development.
TJ Moore is a talented freshman, but Oregon, Ohio State wide receivers are a different animal. Man, he needs to rebound. Yeah, but also Riley and I can't remember, one of us brought it up, but when he was at TCU, they did the same thing to Terrence Brooks. Like Riley will pick a corner, and also guys, we're mad at him at corner. Some of the plays he gave up were impossible plays. If he does this, it goes behind him. If he goes back and goes in front of him, it's impossible to defend. We have this concept that like everything is man. That's not how it works. Whenever he's in zone, anything he chooses is wrong. And so you also have to be aware of that. They'll high-low the corner. Yeah. The corner can't make that play. So some of the stuff wasn't pure getting beat in man. It was that schematically he had to be wrong either way.
Yeah. And give that quarterback some credit, man. He dropped it right in the bucket a few times. How do you defend that?
Yeah. Klubnik made some throws, man.
He did.
A lot of respect to him. Spread is currently 11.5. I am taking that line. And I don't care. Win by one, baby. I don't care. 12.5 is bad.
Beware, Arizona State is exceptional against the spread.
Are they?
Yep.
I'm not a big gambler guy. I don't really know who's good against the spreads or not. That's Paul's expertise. Paul helps us out on our Tuesday show, which will happen tomorrow at 9:30 a.m. All right, let me look through these final questions, make sure I'm not missing anything of big note.
Byron Jones. Oh.
My do not disturb just came back on. I've got like 15 text messages, of course.
That'll be good. Oh, we're right at an hour, so we did our work, fellas. All right, tomorrow 9:30 a.m. Paul and I will be back on. We broke down Arizona State last week. We're not going to repeat that. Of course, if anybody has specific questions about Arizona State, we'll tell you what we think. But we're mostly going to break down Texas. We've been getting requests to break down Texas, how we do other teams. So we'll talk more in depth about the Longhorns, our stats there, our personnel, our schemes, all that kind of stuff. All right. Chat, thank you guys so much. It was very active today. You guys made this show fly by. We appreciate you. Eric, thank you. Coach Dub, thank you. And I'll see you guys tomorrow, 9:30 a.m. Central.